everyone. My guest today is Jamaal Fields-Green. Jamaal most recently played Michael Jackson in MJ the Musical on the West End. Prior to MJ, he starred as John Lawrence and Philip Hamilton in the musical Hamilton. On TV, you've seen him in That Thing About Harry and Chicago PD. Beyond acting, Jamaal has written and directed an award-winning short film, actually many short films. The one I was just mentioning is called The Inevitable, and recently released an EP of original songs titled What Was the Reason? Jamaal Fields-Green, you just finished playing Michael Jackson really for years in all
Yeah.
these different places. And I feel like
hmm
I'm talking to you. I don't even know if you've been able to catch up to sort of the experience in some way because the show just closed 2 seconds ago in London. I assume you're
Right.
back in New York now,
Yes.
which we
Yes.
both call home. So
Yeah.
while you're still exhausted, shocked, high emotionally from the experience, can you just sort of do like a little TED talk on how you're feeling right now in this kind of incredibly unique moment?
Totally. Totally. I'm currently enjoying this period of rest that I'm
Mhm.
in. I never have time like this to myself ever. Usually, this much time. Uh, I'm still on the high. I think it's still all hitting. Um, Closing such a big chapter as the chapter that I closed that took over the duration of about almost 4 years. That's a chapter. That's a serious
Yeah,
chapter,
yeah.
and it was a very major one, not only in my career but also in my life, with all the things that were tied to it. I got married, I got engaged while I was on the contract, then I got married while I was on the contract last year, and just a number of big things, like things that I have checked off my list in my life. So yeah, I would still say I'm still riding the high, and it feels real that it's done, but I'm still suspended in, I wouldn't say disbelief, but just, I don't know, I'm in this peaceful cloud. I'm suspended on this peaceful cloud of serenity, I guess, the best way to explain it right now.
Well, we all want to live on a peaceful cloud of serenity. My
Yeah.
goodness, all we have to do is 4 years of MJ, and
Yes.
then we get to be on a peaceful cloud. Um, I wonder when you think about sort of the bookends of an experience, right? Like
hmm
when you think of the first night that you performed as MJ
hmm
and the last night, w- like if you kind of compared those two
hmm
experiences, how would you talk about that?
Uh, the use of nerves in a way, because my first one, I was nervous. I was so nervous because it's not only am I making my Broadway debut, but I'm making my Broadway debut playing this icon of a human being, this juggernaut of an icon of a human being. Um, so the stakes were just so high, and I mean, now you when you flash forward all the way to my final one, it was nerves, but more so of excitement of like, all right, let's say goodbye. Let's do this. You know how to do it. You've done it so many times, hundreds of times up to this point. Uh, let's blow the roof off with a bang. Let's go out. Let's go out better than how we came in. So it's kind of interesting with you asking that question because those two things are so tied together in so many different ways, but such different experiences. My family came and saw me for my debut, and also came and saw me for my closing.
Wow.
Uh, and it was a big deal for both times. Once the first time on Broadway, our hometown, New York, and then the second time closing halfway across the world. Yeah, no, I would say probably the nerves, the uses of nerves, and how they were utilized, but also how they struck me in different ways. But I would say also maybe
Mm.
of the gravity of the entire situation itself. Both times it wasn't lost on me that I'm playing this. I'm playing this man. I'm portraying uh, this legend. You know. But yeah, I would say mainly it was around probably that and excitement and just loud audiences. Thankfully,
But I guess also when you closed on the West End, when you joined the West End Company, it was your first night. It wasn't the entire company's first night, right? I mean,
Hmm.
maybe others started the same evening, but
Yeah,
when you closed, it was everybody's closing night. And so
yeah,
suddenly you're all having to say goodbye at the same time to this thing. There's not,
totally.
we're leaving tonight and I'm leaving tomorrow night. Like it's
Yeah.
really, it's so powerful. This is the craziest comparison I'm going to make, but
Okay.
just bear with me. So I
Yeah.
did a musical called You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown on
Okay.
Broadway. I
Yep.
played Lucy, who
Okay.
character, not a pop icon, but a character that felt very real to so many
Hmm.
people. She wasn't a human, but
Hmm.
people had grown up with Peanuts. They were obsessed with it. And there was this kind of thing where like they would think I was Lucy Van Pelt, right? Like
Yeah.
I was actually this
Yeah.
character. And
Totally.
with that, it's my only way in to even begin to understand, even in the
Yeah.
smallest way, what it is to play someone who
Hmm.
people have so many opinions about.
Of course.
And are you bringing the Lucy Van Pelt or the Michael Jackson to them that they have imagined
Hmm.
in human form that they could be close to, right?
Totally.
So I would actually get to the point where like I would see a Peanuts cartoon or a Lucy poster and be like, oh, that's me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Bizarre way. Um,
Yeah.
I am Lucy Van Pelt. So I know that's a silly comparison in terms of
No, not at
what
all.
the job entailed or the expectations.
Hmm.
But like, do you feel in
Hmm.
some way, not just that you are representing this family, did you start feeling like I'm Michael Jackson?
No and yes. Only because I think very early on I tried to separate what the expectations of others were going to be thrust upon myself, only
Yeah.
because with as much love I was met with, I wasn't met with a lot of hate or negativity, but I was met with some negativity that I saw online.
Mm,
And I immediately was like, for my mental health and also just for me to be able to do my job, I have to block out all the noise. So for instance, I don't read reviews on myself, just because I feel that a good review has almost the same weight of a bad review, in terms of how it can potentially affect your performance.
yeah.
Um, Not to say that it wasn't lost on me though that, people are coming, like fans are coming with this expectation of what they think Michael is or what they want to see on the stage. And I have a responsibility completely 100% to not really live up to it, but to give them the experience close to what they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, what I always tell myself, I'm not him.
Right.
I'm never going to be him because he was that great, but playing him has made me a better artist for sure. But I would also say, yes, when I was playing him, for sure, I would go, I'm Michael Jackson or I'm MJ, because you have to have that mentality as well. Because a lot of us that get to play the role, myself included, for my personal journey, I had to go through so many hoops and go through so many trials to prove myself to lock down the role, with people that knew him,
Right.
that worked with him, the members of the estate, uh, Rich and Tone Talawega, who toured and worked with him. They teach all the MJs, the MJ movement, our MJ Bible, as we call it. Um, so, once you get through those doors, it's kind of like anything in life. Once you get through that door, after putting on all the preparation, now it's the time, where you have the opportunity, you have to show up, so for sure, but I also would pray to Michael. I always pray before a show, and I would always throw him in there, and kind of just be like, I know you're with me, so if you can, just help me out for these next 2 hours and 30 minutes, and help me get through this show. Help me tell your story as best as I can. So I would say no and yes, yes and no to that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
but I completely know what you mean. Like seeing him too, and a lot of my friends will also would usually go, "Hey, that's you," So it would be funny.
The lines get crossed in all of these crazy ways.
Hmm.
Can you, speaking of the process, which sounds like just the most intensely rigorous process, and
Hmm.
also there's probably like five human beings on the planet who can even do what you do.
Yeah.
Not even in playing MJ, but just the level of dance and singing and stamina and like physical flexibility
Hmm.
So can we go back a little bit before we get to like the rigorous process that you went to
Totally.
get the job? Like
Hmm.
falling in love with dance and music and singing,
Hmm.
because you're also such a prolific artist of your own work.
Thank you.
Where did you sort of find that voice, that passion for that?
Hmm. Well, funny enough, I mean, I always loved singing as a kid, right? I just loved singing for fun, for fun.
Where were you as a kid? Like where did you grow up?
Totally. So born and raised in the Bronx till I was about 10 years old, and then we moved to Rockland County, which is just a little bit, just right over the bridge from the city. Uh, my mom used to work at NBC growing up, and I grew up a single mom with my grandparents. I always say it takes a village. uh, and my mom worked at NBC, and she would take me to work all the time, and she worked right under the chairman. So we would be in his office. He had multiple offices, so they would put me in whatever one that was free, and there would be a flat screen TV. I would bring my men, my toys. So I was like, I bring my men. My family was talking about this recently the other day. Since when I got back, they were telling my wife about how I would watch films and I would reenact them with my toys, and I would cast my toys as the characters in the films that I was watching, and I knew the lines word for word, and I would reenact. They said I would just be by myself and I would reenact them and play with the toys and stuff. And doing that, I was always surrounded by these billboards of these films. You know, I always remembered these old school Universal films, like 30s, 40s films, and then a couple of ones that were hot at the time. So like I was always staring at Russell Crowe and Gladiator because I was like the hottest film at the time,
Yeah.
uh, and stuff like that. And then she would take me to movie premieres. So I always also I had a deep infatuation and love for movies and television. So I would say it started there. Uh, I would always sing for fun. I didn't think like, there was anything there, but I always had these aspirations to, I used to go to concerts a lot with my mom and stuff. And I always would just get excited seeing how everybody would react to these people when they would walk out on stage and how they would make everybody feel in an arena in Madison Square Garden. It's one person or a group of folks and you're able to make all these people scream and go crazy. I always thought that was so powerful and also just very, very cool as a kid. Um, it didn't really start though until middle school. My crush auditioned for the play, so as nature would have it, I did as well, and I got the Tin Man in the Wizard of Oz. And then the next year we did 42nd Street. I went through puberty, as all men do, all boys do, and I was losing my voice because I used to be able to sing just a little higher. I wasn't
Okay.
like I wasn't like Michael Jackson, like with this incredible range, but I was losing my range. I was losing my voice, so I thought that I couldn't sing anymore. So my friends and we had the choice to take an elective course for our sophomore year of high school, and it was either music theory or an art class, and I can't draw to save my life. So I was like, guys, let's take the music theory class. Let's learn how to read music. I'll produce our beats because we had a rap group at the time.
Okay.
Uh, you know,
What were you called?
we didn't have a name.
Hmm.
We were just a group, but we didn't
You
even
were
have
the
a
rap
name.
group.
We were the rap group. We did a couple of covers that didn't go anywhere, and it didn't go anywhere
Okay.
because we were in we were in this class, and we didn't pay any attention. These are my friends still to this day. These are my brothers. But the teacher, our music teacher, Nadia Rizzo, saw something in me, saw something in us. Was like, you guys should audition, and it was Hairspray. I got Seaweed and Hairspray, and I caught the bug from there. And from there, our choreographer next year we did The Wiz, funny enough, and I did the Scarecrow. And he pulled my mom aside and was like, he has the it factor, and if he wants to, he could possibly do this for the rest of his life if he takes it serious enough. And he got me in touch with an acting coach who got me ready for all my collegiate auditions for colleges for musical theater.
Yeah.
He said that I should just go to school for theater because I didn't have the training in singing and dancing technically. Um, but I knew that I wanted to do music and I wanted to be like the Michael Jacksons, the Ushers, the Chris Browns, the Beyoncés, the Bruno Mars, the folks that not only could sing but could give you an experience on stage and also dance to their music. Um, and I wanted to learn how to read music because I've been writing poetry. I was writing poetry uh, since I was in middle school. I was in the Young Writers of America poets book when I was 13 years old. Um, so I just knew that I had all these things that I wanted to just combine and make multiple different avenues of entertainment. auditioned for all the top schools in the country. I got into two, and I ended up going to the University of Hartford, where I just worked my butt off for 4 years and really fell in love with the craft and fell in love with learning and trying to just make myself a better artist. And a couple of regional gigs here and there while I was still in school, thankfully, and fortunate enough was able to book Hamilton right out of school, and then my career just took off from there. And yeah. But I started late, quote unquote late, technically, to industry standards, because a lot of the kids I was going to school with, and a lot of kids nowadays, they start when they're like yay high,
Yeah.
and I
And then
didn't.
there's the Jimmy Awards and there's like
At the Jimmy Awards, the
other,
Jimmy
yeah,
Awards wasn't
yeah,
my. I would have loved for that to have been, but that Jimmy Awards was not something that wasn't in my path, But it also just shows that all of our paths are different, And really, I think if you just put the work in and you're able to meet at least one person that knows somebody,
right.
you know.
Okay. So when I was coming up, like there are different shows that were like the thing that everyone knew of and tried to get into because there
Hmm.
were a lot of ways in. So Rent
Hmm.
was a show,
Okay.
right, that like everyone auditioned for and most people didn't get. And then
Hmm.
a lot of people that I interview who are like a little older than you, it was like Book of Mormon, right? Like
Okay.
Mormon put a poster up at Carnegie Mellon, and like there's all these different like shows that just need so much talent with so many companies all over the world. And Hamilton has obviously become a show that is providing so much work for so
Yeah.
many people. It's
Hmm.
kind of extraordinary how it
Yeah.
keeps going, but also it's the hardest thing to get, right? So
Yeah.
for something that has like 1 million opportunities, one person
Hmm.
needs to do it. So
Totally.
can we go back to how you are 2 seconds out of school, maybe still in school, and
Yeah.
starting this Hamilton journey?
Yeah. So, at the end of the senior year for most collegiate programs, you have your showcase in the city. And we had our senior showcase, and a representative from Telsey casting came, and they invited me to come audition for a general audition for Hamilton. Uh, This is the funniest story. It's the best story, honestly, because it really is. I always tell kids when they ask about advice. I always just say preparation meets opportunity. You always want to make sure that you're prepared. You don't know when it's going to come. Have
Right.
an idea of kind of what you want to do, even if you don't have a broad idea. That's okay. Just somewhat of
Yeah.
an idea of what you want to do,
Yeah.
and just work your tail off until it comes to you. And I was staying in the Bronx with a friend. I wake up early in the morning to go to my audition. I get to where my car is at, and it was the empty parking space. It was gone, and my car had been towed. I was freaking out. I called my mom, and my mom was like, "All right, listen, we're able to track down where it's at. Go to your audition. Just take the train. Go to your audition. Afterwards, pick up your car." So I was like, "Cool," because I'm like, I also I don't have money like that to pay for this towing that just happened. But I get there, and I'm like, "All right, my rep book is in my car, so that's great." But I'm like, "But I know my songs. I know all the music and the material, you know." Uh, like at least I have my headshot on my resume. I get there, I pull out my headshot. It's one of my copies of my headshot, no resume on the back. So I'm like, great, my first big audition, and I'm coming in I'm gonna look so unprepared
Yeah.
and so unprofessional and sloppy. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
I'm freaking out on the phone with my mom, and my mom was like, listen, just calm down, go and do what you do. So I go to, thankfully, also, it also pays to just be a human being in these rooms. They're looking for people, they're not looking for just talented folks. So I went to the person that was operating the room, and I told her just straight up what happened. And she was like, well, that really sucks. She's like, it's okay. We're not acting for anybody um, for their own music. We're just auditioning the material as given. And she's like, we have extras if you need to read off the paper. And she's like, and I can get your email afterwards, and you can email me your headshot and resume. I was like,
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. Thank you,
What you
kind
know,
person. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you, because it doesn't all necessarily always is like that. It should
Right.
be, but went
Right.
in, and I remember we had to do Dear Theodosia and the rap to Washington on Your Side, and we started with Dear Theodosia. First 5 seconds, what they teach in school. If it doesn't feel right, stop, start again. In the first 5 seconds, I started singing. And I was like, wait, can we stop? Can we start again, please? And we did. We did the whole thing. She brings me out afterwards, and I'm thinking, it's to get my email information, which it was. She goes to a packet this box of packets, and on it is character names, it's files. It says Jefferson, Lafayette Jefferson, Mulligan Madison, Hamilton, Burr. She's going through all of them, and I see Lawrence Phillip, and she pulls it out, and she was like, "Send me your email and stuff." She's like, "Make sure you have this when you come back, and all your stuff when you come back to us. We're gonna send you an email, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks." She's like, "Learn that entire packet and have that ready for when you get back." And that was probably one of the best days of my life. I remember I went to the towing office. They were like, I was like, "I don't care. Here, take the money. Give me my car." I had to drive slow because my car isn't made for snow, and it snowed that day. So I'm driving so slow, and I'm blasting the Hamilton soundtrack in my car, beaming ear to ear. And I was still in school at the time. I had like 2 months left of school. Uh, and over the course of 7 callbacks, so like I did like maybe 4 or 5 of them while I was still in school. Then I graduated and I had 2 more after that. But it was 7 callbacks. I remember I counted each one. And they just had me keep coming back in to do the material over and over again, work sessions and stuff like that. Um, and I ended up booking it. I remember at the time I was doing a gig out in Connecticut. I was in the ensemble for Grease. I finished that up the day after. I had to go home, pack my bags, and fly out to Chicago and started rehearsals 2 days after that. And kind of just started my career for everything. I started doing my music out in Chicago and started doing TV and film out in Chicago and lived out for the first time on my own as an adult and found myself as an adult who Jamaal was as a person. As an adult, started finding myself. Yeah, Hamilton opened all the doors for me, not just my career, but also my life. So I met my wife through Hamilton. She was the bullet in the company. Yeah, so it was just Hamilton. Yeah, it was the best time.
Oh my God, Jamal. Okay, when you first joined in Chicago, who were
Mhm.
the Hamilton and Burr when you first began working? Do you remember?
The Burr was Akron Watson. He had just joined. He joined with myself. And the Hamilton was quite literally, I mean, I think even Lynn will say this, the Hamilton, Miguel Cervantes.
Wow.
I love Miguel. That's Papa Miggy. But I love him. I got to learn a lot just by watching him. And a lot of people always said that we were very alike in terms of our work ethic.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah, no, one of the best in the industry, period.
What is the name, for people listening, a lot of Hamilton fans know there's like the Angelical tour, there Angelica.
Hmm.
Like, so what
Yeah,
was the name of the first of that company? Do you remember?
we were the Eliza tour. We were
Your
the Eliza
Eliza.
tour. Yeah, but we were a sit down in Chicago, and then that company was supposed to be the LA company, but then the pandemic happened, and then it kind of got scrapped after that. But
So
yeah,
you had started pre-pandemic, and how
mhm.
long were you in the show with the show before the shutdown?
Just a year and a half, and because I only did it in Chicago. I did it for a year and a half in Chicago, and that was enough for me. And I was coming back to the States. And funny enough, when I came back, not the States. Sorry, I'm still
Oh, wait,
talking like
wait.
I just got back a couple days ago from London. When I was coming back to New York, funny enough, I was in callbacks for Middle Michael with MJ back in
Oh,
2020
so that had started.
before the shutdown. Yeah, before the shutdown, I was in callbacks for Middle Michael at the time. Funny enough. Um,
So how long? Okay. And also like you're in a job, but still auditioning for other things. That's how it
mhm.
works. You always want to know what's next. You're
Yeah.
in the process. You get in the room for Middle Michael.
Hmm.
Entire industry shuts down. No one knows
Yeah.
what's going to happen. It's such a time of reflection, anticipation,
Hmm.
anxiety, quiet. Like so many things are happening. Are
Hmm.
you continuing to audition throughout the pandemic, or do they just shut the process down for a while?
A mixture of the two. So I booked the AIDA tour, the revival tour that was supposed to happen as Marab. And we had made it to our third day of rehearsals. And the whole plan was we were supposed to open at Paper Mill, go on a whole tour throughout the country for like a couple of months, and softly transfer to Broadway. And so I just thought that I didn't get Middle Michael, and I just, as it is in the business, I was like, oh, that's not in my cards, but I ended up booking this, this
Right.
Disney show. So I was like, all right, cool, that's the business, you just what may not be now is this on the other side, and I remember they said that we're going to come back next month because no one knew what it was going to look like. And then 1 month turned into 2 months, and then it turned, we're going to come back in a year. I didn't audition for the rest of 2020. I think until a TV. It was more so for TV and film. I auditioned a couple times, came close to a couple things, but didn't get
Right.
it. And
Right.
um, but it wasn't too bad because I got to come home because I didn't have a place to stay in New York. I didn't have my own apartment yet, so I got to come home, and I hadn't seen my family for over a year, which was a very long time for myself. Uh, and I got to come home and just kind of return to all of my chores around the house. I had to mow the lawn and take out the trash, and
Yes.
doing some of all the stuff that my grandpa was doing. But I got to kind of pick up on some of the chores and just be home for a little bit. But yeah, the pandemic, as it was for everybody, it was a interesting time to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you mentioned that you met your wife Amber when
Hmm.
you were doing I Love a Showman Story. Are you
Oh yeah,
comfortable sharing a little bit of your love story?
of course, of course. So funny enough, I was in a relationship when we met, and she had just gotten out of a relationship when we had met. Uh, And I remember she's just first and foremost, she's mesmerizing on stage. She's gorgeous, yes, but she's also just a mesmerizing artist, but dancer. Uh, so she had caught my eye just immediately because I was just like, that's a very talented, beautiful person. Um, and I had broken up with my girlfriend at the time, and uh, we were in Amber and I were in the same friend group. And I remember it all started. We always talk about this story. We used to party a lot. We still do, not as much, but we partied a lot in Chicago. We lived like rock stars in Chicago. And one night we're out with our friends who were dating at the time, and we were both best friends to each other. And we went to a diner that was right next to the club that was open till late, and they left us there. And then we had nothing. We had no other choice but to really talk to each other, and that kind of opened up the door. And through time, we just started getting closer and closer with each other. And from there, I remember, I think after a year of us, trying to figure out what it was, we made it official. And it was always fun doing the show with her. One thing that I always appreciated about us is that we never brought anything on stage. Um, our relationship was completely off stage. And we actually kind of kept it as a secret for a while, tried to keep it as a secret from
But
our
everybody knew, right? Like,
everybody knew. Everybody knew.
or
Everybody
they
knew.
could feel it.
Yeah.
Wait, wait. What it takes to be in Hamilton
Hmm.
physically
Hmm.
seems to me, just as an
Hmm.
appreciator of the show,
Hmm.
I can't imagine the kind of stamina that it takes to be in that show. That is a
Hmm.
show where you do not stop moving, singing, and spinning around for hours every
Hmm.
night. So you
Yeah.
are saying, I mean, you were young, I get it, but
Yeah.
after doing that show 8 shows a week, you
Hmm.
guys would hit a club and be
Hmm.
having breakfast or really dinner at
Yeah.
6 a.m. And
Hmm.
then, like, you were living a life of a person not in Hamilton, even while in Hamilton.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's one thing that we prided ourselves on too. Old school. If you're gonna go out, you better be at work the next day.
Right.
Uh, and that was us. We always showed up to work. I actually, funny enough, she jokes. A lot of my castmates joke about this. I got shouted out because I basically went 6 months without calling out. I think it was about almost between 300 and 400 shows. And I wasn't doing that to set a record or anything. And that's me still to this day.
Yeah.
It's, I,
You can do it.
I can do it. And it's also, it's a job, right?
Yeah.
But also too, I mean, I worked my butt off to get to this point. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of people that are killing to be in my position. And I just remember what it was like being in that practice room when I felt no one else was seeing me or seeing the work or
Yeah.
seeing my value. And I just kept telling myself, just keep working, keep working. A lot of frustrating nights in the practice room. So that's why. But
I
yeah.
know, but I love that you're dancing all night and then you go out dancing all night
Oh, of
and then come
course.
back for the matinee to dance all afternoon
Yeah,
and
it's all afternoon. And
your brains out.
I
Yeah.
might be cursing myself out, being like, Jamal, what were you thinking? But I'm like, let's just get it over with. It'll be okay.
So learning, so it's one thing to be an incredible dancer, right? And to
Hmm.
naturally be able to just do things that most people can't do, but
Hmm.
to dance like Michael Jackson in
Hmm.
all the iconic ways that this man could dance and sing.
Hmm.
Um, you talked about people who worked with him and toured with him being the teachers for the show.
Yeah.
So obviously on day one, they were like, this person has potential. Like we can, this is a very Like this is a
Yeah.
sculpture we want to work on. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
how how sure were you that you could do it?
At first, I wasn't sure,
Mhm.
and I have a lot of self belief in myself. Um, but the work was just so hard. So you have to understand it like this. The MJ process was very similar to my MJ auditioning process, where I was called back about maybe 4 or 5 times, and the final
Wait, you mean
uh,
like Hamilton?
with MJ as well.
Right, like
So,
Hamilton. Yeah.
so MJ, the first part was a self tape.
Okay.
Funny enough, the MJ, the audition came as I was seeing the show for the first time in 2022, not too long after they opened, and I'm just checking my emails during intermission, as us actors do. Like I don't know why, but I was just checking my emails just to see, and I refreshed my emails, and I just saw an auditioning come up for MJ for
Wait,
future replacements
while
for
you're
MJ.
at MJ.
While yes, while I'm
Oh,
watching the show, you cannot make
crazy.
this up. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you cannot make this up.
I love it.
So I did the self tape for and I had to sing 2 songs, or I think 2 to 3 songs, and I had to do like 2 scenes. Then I got a call back to do that again, and then the work session was to do all of that, the music, but then they also sent me a plethora of different numbers that I had to learn on my own to come in and be prepared. I mean, learn loosely, but then we came in and then we worked on it for 2 hours before we had to present it in front of the entire creative team for that, and that was the audition. Um, I remember I thought I didn't do as well that day. I went home and took a nap just to turn the world off for a second. And as I'm meeting up with my friend at Benihana, who was actually our Mulligan Madison in Chicago and is currently Mulligan Madison on Broadway right now, Eber and Stanley. Um, I got the call right before, and they were like, "They're very interested in you. You're the only option. You're not the only option. You're the only choice right now, but you're not done yet. The next part would be to fly you to LA potentially um, to work with the brothers." And that was my final part of my audition, and I did that, and we were there for 5 days, 4 hours straight. We were supposed to do Billie Jean, Beat It, and Smooth Criminal. And the first day, Rich, the older brother, they're old school. He was like, if we can't get through Billie Jean, we're not going to touch any other numbers because that's the most important number. We did Billie Jean for 4 hours straight for all 5 days, and we did not touch a number. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like,
Yeah,
we are supposed to get to all these other numbers, and we're not. I was
yeah.
like, I'm not doing well.
I'm not meeting the
I'm not meeting the
expectations. Yeah,
expectations. Like I'm bombing it. I'm thinking in
yeah.
my head. I'll never forget. We had to film something to send off to the creative team and to the estate, and Rich was like, listen, we may not have gotten to every other number, but every day you were getting better a little bit every day. And that's what we're looking for. So he was like, so you keep that. Remember what we taught you this week, and I'll see you in New York. I'll never forget that. And I remember I couldn't feel my legs, my hamstrings, my muscles, and he would tell me, he was like, that means you're doing it right because my muscles had not been worked like that before or like had not moved like that before. And
Right.
I remember right as soon as I finished this, drenched in sweat, I had a change of clothes. I hopped in my car and and I drove to the airport and I flew home. But I did with a smile on my face, knowing that I had done it. But that was only the beginning. And even still, I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. But I had so much work. I had put on 15 pounds of muscle because my short film, The Inevitable, I played a fighter and I put on muscle and weight purposely
That,
to look
yeah.
bigger. If you know me, it's just my luck to book a role, to do all that, and then book a role to play one of the skinniest people to ever live right after that, you know?
Yeah, that's like there's so many times during this conversation where I've like been on the brink of tears because it is so magical and there's so much like divine intervention and
Sure.
exactly what you're describing, which is, but I'm ready to meet the moment when
Hmm.
when these kind of like you've had the most unbelievable experiences in the 5 minutes since you've been doing this, right? Like
Yeah,
it was very little like, okay, I'm going to do like a community theater and then a summer stock and like talk about big leagues in our industry and
yeah.
to be able to be, first of all,
Excuse me.
bless you. I
Thank you.
know your mom has so much to do with sort of like
Yeah,
who you are and the
yeah,
not to be presumptuous, but just the way you talk about her and
Hmm.
like your heart just opens in the way that it
Oh
does.
yeah,
And your grandparents, like
yeah,
all of the Fields Greens
yeah.
in life, but also like that work ethic. It's just an extraordinary thing because no one is prepared. Like who's prepared to play MJ in the musical
No,
MJ? Like it's
yeah.
nobody, right?
Nobody, no one.
But but you learned it and slowly when you were first auditioning, was it to be a standby or a New York?
Hmm.
Like what was the original intention?
It was just for future replacements. That's what they had said. And then uh, I had been pinned for a series regular show for a show,
Yeah,
and they were gonna, and this was all happening at the same time.
yeah,
And MJ was gonna let me do it, but they were like, "Will Jamal be willing to stand by for both MJ and Middle Michael?" And at the time, it looked like I was gonna get the other gig, so I was like, "Totally." It was only, sorry, I have a tickle in the back of my throat. And it was only for 6 months, so I was like, "Why not?"
yeah.
So it was a standby originally, and then from there I had to kind of work my way up. So then I went from standby, then I was the alternate on the first national tour, and then I took over I took over for year two, and then not even halfway with me being in year two, I took over London, and then finished my time in London, and that was always the plan.
Okay. Well, Jamal.
Yeah.
I am such a fan.
Thank
I
you.
really encourage people to also go listen to Jamal's music. How do we,
Please.
and also you work with your beautiful wife, and
Yes.
you guys are great collaborators. That must be so much fun to
We're
do.
thankful. I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful. I always say she's the superstar. I'm just the husband, but it's very, very true. She's really something special. She has a lot of, she has some music and just her plans for this, for her future. She's about to take over. So I hope the industry's ready. They're not, but I hope they're
Well,
ready.
we're here to tell people get ready.
Yeah.
Um, do you know what you're doing next, or are you just in a moment of like, I don't know, and this is nice to just kind of sit still for a minute in terms of
Totally.
other people's projects, not your own?
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. I don't know yet. I don't know yet, but I'm actually, I always knew with leaving MJ, I wanted to leave on a high. And I knew that doing that, I've been calling this next chapter of my life, the beginning of it at least, the unknown.
mm,
Walking into the unknown and just walking with confidence and just kind of where I started, just that preparation and just being ready for when the opportunity strikes. My team and we have our eyes on some stuff. So, hopefully, but right now I'm
not
also,
everybody.
I think before we get to that point, I think it's really important for me right now to just enjoy this period of rest and silence and peace, which I am.
Yeah,
I have my days. I think all actors do. I have my days even when I'm booked and busy, when I have my doubts for what's next.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
have my days where I'm like, oh, I need to figure out what's next, or like, because I love to be busy and I love knowing what I'm a Virgo. I can't help it, um, but no, I'm kind of sitting in the peace and sitting in the silence right now and just being like, everything's gonna work itself out, and whatever the next thing is, I'm excited. I just feel whatever's next. I feel there's something big coming. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's TV, film, or if it's theater, or all the above, or my music, or my filmmaking. Because I'm always doing everything, even if I'm not doing it for other people's projects. If it's just solely my own.
Yeah.
Um, but something big is coming. I can feel the tide coming in. I'm getting my surfboard ready.
I love it. All right,
Yeah.
before I let you go and let you rest before whatever is coming comes,
Yeah.
is there a little known fact about you that you can share?
uh, I'll give you two because this one is kind of doesn't count. It's a funny one.
Okay.
If you go on YouTube and you look up Jamal takes a tumble, it's a video of me tripping over myself and breaking a hurdle. I tried to jump over and I broke it, and we were on America's Home's Funniest Videos. That was me in high school. So that's a
I
little
love
fact.
that. Okay.
Uh,
That's a bonus one.
bonus one. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo.
Really?
Yeah, I've been doing martial arts since I was like a kid, and I think with this free time, I think in the next year, I'm going to pick up another art form of martial arts, whether it be Muay Thai or Jiu Jitsu or maybe even just boxing. But But
Wow.
yeah, I love fighting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, wow. Okay. All the time. We could go back to one and do an
Yeah.
entire thing on that. Jamal, thank you for being on the show today. I'm so
Thank you.
grateful. I wish you so
No,
much success and joy in life.
thank you. But likewise, and thank you for your time and thank you for having me today. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. All right. Until next time.
Until next time, you have a great one.
You too. Bye, Jamal.
Bye bye.
Bye.